G'day guys, welcome to episode 113 of Ask Jack D. Today I take a question is, should we focus on building one great product or 5 good products? And my answer speaks to the very heart of what I think the most important ingredient is for any early stage or high growth business. And it is the exact same principle that is the number one killer and barrier to growth for early stage and high growth businesses throughout Australia. And that is focus, the importance of it, how challenging it is to adopt, but what happens when you finally reach a point where you do adopt the absolute principle of focus.
28 and I'm trying to shape history, pulling from the sky for some strength to take with me, line up the stars, fly away quickly and push the world forward like a tidal wave hit me. I ride the wave swiftly, I fear no man.
G'day guys, welcome to episode 113 of Ask Jack D. Today we take a question from Joe Bolton from Twitter, I'm guessing, Twitter, who asks, Jack, always wondering, is it better to have one great product or 5 average ones? #AskJackD or #AskJackD, depending on which way you look at it. There's a couple of components to this question, Joe. I think the first thing is there is an absolute truth across business that suggests that focus is always a very important and effective thing for any great business. You know, when Jobs came back into Apple after he was gone from 85 to 97, he said the product lines were just so vast and so significant, he couldn't even keep up with what the product lines were, let alone expecting the consumer to keep up with the product lines were. So he got rid of about 70% of the project plans that were in the works at the time, right? So it is also true for startup and early stage businesses that you know, the number one barrier to growth for early stage businesses in Australia is a lack of focus. We try to do too many things and try to become everything to everybody, and in doing so we end up being nothing to nobody. As entrepreneurs, our biggest strength is that we love to pursue opportunity. As entrepreneurs, our biggest weakness is that we love to pursue opportunity. So in doing that, we always just try to do too many things at once, right? In your any stage of business, but particularly early stage, the rule is this: pick one thing and try and become the best in the world at it. The absolute truth across any business at any stage is focusing on doing things great is far more effective than doing several things good, right? Think about when the iPhone came out in 2007, they had one phone, but their one phone was better than all of RIM's phones, they were doing the Blackberries. It was better than all of Nokia's phones. They had hundreds of different phones. Apple came out with one, and in the beginning, the iPhone, if you remember back to 2007, it wasn't even that great when it came out. It had several iterations and refinements it needed to go through before it became a great phone, but they had one, right? So the principle is build one great product. The sort of, to round that out and to provide the caveat to that is this: once you've done and built one great product, and that's successful, and it's sustaining, and it's profitable, you've then given yourself permission to go and do it again, right? And that's also true of business. I think that sometimes entrepreneurs try and start like 3 businesses at once. And I've never known anybody to start successfully 3 businesses at once. Even Musk throughout, you know, the 2000s when he was doing Tesla, SpaceX, or he was running both companies. He wasn't starting both companies at once. Both companies were already, within their growth phase. And even then, Musk doesn't. He blatantly says, don't run 2 companies at once. Maximum run 1 company once. Jobs was the same when he was running Pixar and Apple. He said, I'd get home and I literally couldn't speak. I couldn't speak to my children. I couldn't speak to my wife. He said, don't run 2 companies at once, right? So what early stage entrepreneurs are often guilty of is trying to run different businesses at once. Don't do that. Build one great company, then that gives you permission to go and build another great company. Build one great product, then that gives you permission to go and build another great product. Don't try and do both at once. We are so guilty of trying to do too much. You know, every time we're coming up to New Year's soon, everyone goes, I want to do more next year. My advice is don't try and do more next year. Try and do less next year. Think when looking at 2016, ask yourself this question: what could I not do next year? What am I currently doing that I could carve off next year? I have, every year for the last 10 years, I have done less in terms of breadth. And every time I carve off more and look at life and business and entrepreneurship with a more laser-like focus, the less I do in terms of breadth, the more I do in terms of depth. So focus is an absolute principle. Apply it to product, apply it to people, apply it to the number of businesses that you run, apply it to looking at your year in 2016, and just focus on one thing and try and become the best in the world at it.
I've just actualized a wish that I dreamed as a kid. Cause I'm lining